everyone. If you can all be seated, we're going to get started with the keynote ceremony. Give you all a second. We have a lot of people here today. We have a lot of people that just came in. Thank you so much. I already kind of gave this reminder in the morning, but I'm going to just do it one more time since there are so many people in the room, to just make sure you're being mindful of side conversations during this time and getting up and leaving as much as possible. Just try to stay seated so there's less noise and so that we can give the award recipients and the keynote address the respect and attention it deserves. So thank you. We also have this portion being live streamed by Orca Media, and so you will be able to find a link to that. And yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you. So first, with the keynote address, as you know, the theme of this year's National Crime Victims' Rights Week celebration is kinship. And so someone that we felt honored that theme very well throughout his life is Senator Sears. Coming up now to talk more about him and to describe that way of how he embodied that theme is Lori Vatican. She is the Mental Health and Health Integration Director for the Department of Mental Health. She is also a past member of the multidisciplinary team that helped develop the Bennington Child Advocacy Center and was the past executive director. So I'm going to bring up Jennifer Pullman, the director. Lori Vatican, the director, to talk more about this. So, thank you.
Oh, there he is. Okay. First, I just have to say, can we give a shout out for Taylor and Ashley? This morning was mind-blowing. It's unbelievable. Wow. Wow, just incredible. And really, I feel so incredibly honored that I get to talk about my friend Dick Sears. And wow, he just is an incredible human and lives in my heart and lives in all of our hearts. And now I am with state government, and so I can tell you that we miss him. We miss his philosophy, his honesty. It's tough not having him there. So today I want to talk about kinship, connection, and healing, and how they form a circle of support. In a world that often seems fractured, the true power of compassion is found in the connections that we nurture. Dick Sears, Child Advocacy Centers, and each of you gathered here today are the true champions of these meaningful bonds. In times of abundance, many seek our company, but it's in the moments of struggle that we find out who our kin are. Those who reveal the essence of our heritage and the strength that we draw from it. Kinship is not just about bloodlines or proximity. It's about the deep, unspoken understanding that we are all in this journey of life together and doing the best we can. It's about showing up for one another. It's about being responsive, genuine, and affirming, even when we have no obligation to do so. It's the shared moments, the quiet gestures of authentic support, the unconditional positive regard, and the unshakable belief that we are stronger together. Kinship inspires us to move beyond our differences and recognize the common thread that binds us. Together, we create a beautiful, colorful tapestry. It is through kindness, compassion, and empathy that we create the connections that build community and heal wounds and uplift spirits. It's not about expecting anything in return, but simply about being there for each other, because we understand that each person's story is part of our own. In the early 80s, there was a police officer in Bennington named Gary Briggs and a DCF social worker, Bunny Thompson. They joined forces in investigating children disclosing childhood sexual abuse. This dynamic duo recognized they needed a larger community to fight this atrocity. So in 1989, they started the multidisciplinary team that included teachers and therapists, social workers, doctors, nurses, law enforcement, advocates, state's attorneys, administrators, and more. This team continues today, 36 years later. Dick Sears was always a supporter of this team, and he worked hard to get funding for child advocacy centers. Gary and Bunny say of Dick, he was a true supporter and a wonderful, caring man. As a result of this group coming together, we were able to secure a SANE nurse and a doctor in our local hospital, open the Child Advocacy Center where both local and state police were assigned, hired trauma staff, and provided community education and treatment. Trauma and hurt create aloneness. Through this supportive community of professionals, the bonds transcended any biological ties. This support system gave victims understanding of kinship. The Child Advocacy Center, a sanctuary where they could express their experience of pain without judgment and belief in their story, and the strength and the tools for new understanding necessary for their healing. Because of the attunement and healthy attachment you find in a Child Advocacy Center, victims began to see themselves as a greater whole. Victims began to see they have a new identity. They came to understand that systemic violence and oppression is deeply rooted in our culture, and what happened to them was not their fault. And then their pain became easier to carry. Now we have become the nurturing environment with corrective messaging that was essential for their healing. We form a bond and witness their emotional, spiritual, and psychological restoration. We become their kin. We become their heritage. Kinship relationships cannot be a source of anything other than encouragement, motivation, and healing, and often give lives meaning and purpose. The kinship leads to connection, a bond formed not out of similarities alone, but out of a willingness to be vulnerable with one another. When we connect with someone in this deep, empathic way, we allow ourselves the rawest parts of our soul. Vulnerability is connection, and it is not a sign of weakness. It's a courageous act of letting someone into our hidden spaces. The act of connection creates the foundation for our healing. I was given the beautiful opportunity to be the first CAC director. This allowed me to work with a team to help victims and families rebuild their lives and transcend their trauma. Through evidence-based treatment, I was able to listen deeply to the stories and help integrate the memory that was left in the body, mind, and spirit. Past trauma is a sensory disease, creating worry, disconnection, mistrust, depression. But as we heal, we slowly begin to let those yucky feelings go. We learn to appreciate the little things, to be more mindful of our surroundings, and to truly experience the world without the constant cloud of stress and emotional baggage. Healing allows balance and well-being, a wholeness. Each person begins to feel emotional health and a stronger sense of purpose, often leading them to a profession of wanting to help others. We begin to shed layers of pain and fear and distraction. This allows us to be more in tune with the present moment. Victims transition not merely from surviving, they go all the way to truly thriving. Over the years, I have been humbled to receive thank yous, invitations to high school and college graduations, and the privilege of witnessing our governor sign bills into law that protect victims. I've celebrated with individuals as they passed their bar exam, opened up their businesses, and hung shingles as licensed professionals, and marked life's milestones with births of children and wedding announcements. These moments stand as a testament to real success, and healing is proof of true transformation. So I just want to do an experiment in this room for just a moment around how many of you might feel connected to me. How much of us carry a bond together? Who in this room at times have been knocked down by life? Who in this room considers someone in their inner kin even though they share no bloodline? Who believes they are stronger because of the hurt they experienced? Who knows someone that was a victim of a crime and today healed, now thrive? Who here has been angry or even outraged by the injustice they've experienced? Who here has used their voice to make legislative change? Who in this room here loves someone that's right here, or even maybe your best friend? Patty Randall. Who here has a deep faith? Who here lives with a diagnosis of cancer? Who here loves someone that served in our country in the military? How many of you, when you hang with childhood friends, do the same shenanigans you did 30 years ago? How many of you believe your life work is making a difference? How many of you are grateful that you showed up here today? Let us not forget that each act of kindness, no matter how small, is a ripple that creates a wave of positive change. When we embrace kinship, we see life through the lens of love and possibility. We recognize that our collective strength is far greater than one individual's power. Kinship, connection, and healing intertwined in a delicate dance, each element playing a crucial role in the process of our healing and our growth. Now let's talk about my friend and my kin, Dick Sears, exchanging greetings in the morning as we walked in North Bennington through Bennington College with our dogs, enjoying legislative breakfasts together, and highlighting the community and individuals' needs. While our work was quite different, our roles had a lot that overlapped, focusing on the well-being of each individual and the community. Each understanding the importance of listening, problem solving, our ethical responsibilities, communication, advocacy, decision-making, and most importantly, empathy and compassion. Dick, after graduating from UVM at 23 years old, moved to Bennington and moved into 204 Depot House, where he lived while the residential program was being started in October of 1971. From its inception, the goal of 204 Depot program was to keep teen boys at risk from making their way to prison. Dick worked at developing and maintaining the 204 program for the next 34 years, working with some of the most vulnerable young people in the state, providing them safety and a sense of belonging and perhaps a little guidance. Dick, treating these boys as kin, created the residential setting to be a home. These boys all having difficult moments in their lives, all carrying invisible burdens. Each boy not able to see the weight of the other, yet, despite this, there was an unspeakable understanding between them, a kinship that goes beyond bloodline. It's acceptance, a recognition that they're pain, that they're not alone. The first step of the healing process, Dick created an atmosphere where boys could be seen and acknowledged, a kinship that fosters empathy. And in empathy, we find the suffering of one becomes a shared experience. Healing is not something that happens in isolation, nor is it linear. It is a process that unfolds when we allow ourselves to express our pain in safe, understanding spaces. With kinship, we offer the gift of feeling less alone. And with connection, we find the strength to move forward. In the presence of those who understand, we begin to stitch together the broken parts of ourselves, slowly and gently, as in the company of someone who is patiently holding our hand while we heal. The broken pieces together start to create a beautiful mosaic. Together, kinship, connection, and healing form that circle of support. Kinship provides the initial understanding, connection deepens the bond, and healing emerges when we feel safe and seen. They are the quiet forces that guide us through life, trials, teaching us no matter how deep the wound, the presence of others who truly see us, who are kind to us, who connect with us, the catalyst for true healing. Dick's friends and colleagues, John Winchester and Jim Henry, worked with Dick at 204 since 1985 until Dick retired in 2005. And they shared with me that Senator Dick Sears was adopted as a baby, and he grew up in a comfortable upper middle class home as the only child. So he came from some element of privilege, and he never lost sight of that. When Dick became the state senator, one of the first laws he sponsored was adoption reform, which allowed adopted children to obtain more access to information about their birth parents. Much later in life, after Dick retired from 204, he used this law to find out about his birth parents, and guess what he discovered? He was born in prison. His biological mother had been incarcerated at the time of his birth, and she put baby Dick up for adoption. The man of privilege, who would spend his life work keeping people out of prison, found out through a law he helped create that he was born in prison. The irony of it all was so powerful to Dick and to those who knew him. He was, in fact, able to meet his biological mother late in her life and found out that he had a half-sister who he reunited with. This gift he received later in his life seemed to re-energize and refocus him, which could be seen in his vigorous legislating right through the last session a year ago. A hardworking, productive legislator who always fought for the most vulnerable right up into the end. His friends report he made a difference to thousands of Vermont youth. His impact on the lives of his former residents was evident from the very first young man at 204 Depot. Dick's unwavering commitment to help young people grow into productive adulthood was truly inspiring. He saw the potential in people when they did not see it in themselves. Dick was always a shining example of dedication, kindness in his community and in the state of Vermont. Whether it's family, friend, or community, the bonds we form can provide us support, empathy, and resilience in times of need. We thank you, Dick Sears, for your kinship. And I do believe for Dick's family, we have something beautiful that's on behalf of the Child Advocacy Centers in the state of Vermont that would like to extend their deepest gratitude for Senator Dick Sears' unwavering dedication in protecting children and strengthening our families. Is Dick's family here?
Wow. Wow. Can everybody hear me? What was your name again, dear?
Lori Vatican.
She needs to be a speechwriter for presidents, governors, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. You want to come on up here? Oh my God, I'm blown away. That was wonderfully spoken. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, Lori, so much, and thank you to all of you for being here, and it's really a privilege to honor your dad and your grandfather and all that he has done for his lifetime of service in support of victims and survivors in the way that he has changed policy for Vermonters and changed policy forever. His legacy will not be matched. And I'm so glad that you and your family could be here. I know that his work must have taken time away. And I know that also because having worked with him for over 20 years, I know that he wore this work right here. It was here. The feelings were here. His transparency and his authenticity and his commitment. If he set his idea on something that was going to happen, get out of his way. It was going to happen. So having had the honor of working with him for the length of time that I did, I'm sure that he brought those conversations home, his aggravation sometimes home, and some of the funny stories home. And the gift you gave by sharing him with us, and I understand that you're learning, I understand from John, from your dad, that you're learning just how very much he contributed and how much he meant. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I've sat down and tried to think about what I wanted to say for weeks. I started thinking about it back in June. I'm really going to kind of just speak from the heart. I've got some pieces to guide me, but really going to speak from the heart. My first experience of your dad and your grandpa was terrifying. I was new into my job at the time. I was the coordinator for the victim advocates in the state. And they had an idea, let's improve victims' rights in juvenile cases. And that was back in 2003. And my boss at the time said, well, just go and meet with the chair of Senate Judiciary and tell him what you're thinking. And I was like, okay, I was a lawyer before I moved to Vermont, but I'd never sat down with the chair of Senate Judiciary. And I approached him in the room. We had an appointment, and I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, this is so terrifying. But what I learned, and I think anybody who's worked with Senator Sears has learned, is he had the biggest heart, the biggest heart. And again, he was always authentic. He was always transparent. He didn't hide things. He called a spade a spade. His emotions were right there, and sometimes he would have the entire room in stitches, and we would all be doubled over with something funny that he said. And then other times, if you went in speaking nonsense and didn't realize and read the room that what you were speaking was nonsense, that didn't go so well. He really spoke with passion and commitment, and again, if he had an idea that something was wrong, there was some injustice, he was going to go with it, and you could not take him away from that idea. And one of the really amazing things about Senator Sears that I appreciate over the years, and we didn't always agree on everything, but he was so balanced in how he saw the system. He saw individuals who experienced harm. He saw individuals who had caused harm, and saw just the whole way that we could be addressing this piece in a comprehensive way versus here's your piece, here's your piece, here's your role. He really got this whole, the way that things are interwoven, that whole kinship piece, and how we can all stand together and really make change for people across the board. Some of the highlights I just want to mention. First is that underlying a lot of the highlights I'm going to mention is that your dad, your grandfather, he listened to victim survivor voice in a way that I can't describe my respect for. He had a lot of horrible cases come before him, and us frequent flyers, sometimes he's like, okay, we got to get going. But victim survivors, he always gave the space for that. And he didn't just give that space. He really listened. And it resulted in some amazing pieces that have changed the way that we do things in Vermont, but also led in terms of how other states are doing their work. One piece that he was a leader on, he created the Domestic and Sexual Violence Fund in our state that would provide specific funding for domestic and sexual violence services. He established that back in 2008. He was the leader that puts that on the map. We have a restitution program in our state that is unique to any place in the country that allows, that established a fund that would provide support for victim survivors immediately when restitution is ordered, rather than what had been in existence, wherein victims and survivors were waiting years, even a decade to get $20 payments a month. He took the victim out of that equation and made us responsible to collect those funds. So for so many victims, that has made a huge difference when their out-of-pocket expenses are so huge. Your dad did that. That was his baby. He also was the leader behind making sure that there are special investigation units in every single county that investigate child abuse and sexual assault cases. He made that happen in our state. He was also a leader in terms of making sure that we have a mandate that there be prevention education around sexual abuse in our state. That was another piece where other states were saying, oh, we want to do this as well, or they were getting started, and we're like, well, we've got that here. Vermont was out in front in that as well. With respect to criminal justice reform, he was so well respected by the national movement in terms of reforms. And what I really appreciated about him was that he also made sure that when we talk about reform, we made sure that victim and survivor voices were also at the table in terms of informing that process. Finally, one of the pieces I know he was most proud of, and in the fall before his last session, he worked to elevate the voices of the survivors of the St. Joseph's Orphanage. I don't know if you're familiar or how many people in the room are familiar with the voices of the survivors of St. Joseph's Orphanage. They were, he made sure that there was funding for a restorative process for them every year. He made sure that they had a voice in the legislature. Their voices were shut down otherwise. They grew up having their voices shut down. And he provided a platform for them in the legislature to make change and to finally be heard. He was so proud of that work, and it's funny because he didn't really realize how much it meant to them until I mentioned to him, well, there's a forum down in Manchester. You should go, they'd love to have you. And he went, and he said, I never really, meeting them meant such a difference to him, meeting them in person, and that connection piece. And it really, he was always moved. And that's the thing that was so special about him, is his heart was always there. One of the other pieces I wanted to mention about how he always took that time for victims and survivors, the last session that he was in, he even made sure when there was written testimony from a mom whose 2 sons had overdosed on the same day and died of fentanyl poisoning. She had written a letter. It was during committee discussions or deliberation on a bill. And he knew that she had written that, but he took the time to make sure that he read it into the record so that everybody would notice this. So that's how important he felt voice was. And not just victim voice, but community voice. I can't count how many times I heard Senator Sears say, well, my community tells me. And he really brought that constantly to all the conversations. I wasn't sure when your dad died if I could come back to this work. I really wasn't. But I remembered the last time I actually testified, he took the time and he said, I want you to know that work on behalf of victims and survivors is so important, and I appreciate all that you've done over the years, and keep going. And so I went back and found that on YouTube because I just didn't know if I could. We are so honored you're here. We are putting a plaque in the Memorial Garden, also in your dad's honor. It's on Baldwin Street, and it's not there yet, but I will let you know when it's installed. And I just, again, want to thank you for sharing us with him. He was an incredibly special man. I miss him a lot, and thank you very much. Thank you. And
oh, look at this.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Take some time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I love your theme today, kinship. My daughters don't want to talk, so I guess I'm going to do all the talking. I love your speech. Where'd you go? There you are. So this has been a tough year for me and my family. You just said some really powerful things and good, healthy feelings. I appreciate you very much. To kind of go a little bit more off of what you were saying about 204, my Dick adopted me. I didn't know my dad. I got sent to 204 Depot When I was 15 years old, that's where I met Senator Sears. He was a very intimidating man, but I could tell that he was kind, and he always took the time for the residents to reach out and see that we were hurting, sad, confused, scared. We created a bond that I knew that he would create with other residents and a lot of the other residents, but something felt different. I needed his help when I was about 18. I was about turning 18, and he was there without any hesitation. Kinship, friendship, that brother bond, those trips to Canada where he brought the 204 boys, molded me into who I was, into who I am today. Without his guidance and without him showing me what kinship was, I wouldn't have been able to show the kids that I've worked with coaching football for 13 years, or my two beautiful daughters here. This is Delilah and that's Caden, by the way. They're my world. They were his world. He looked at a lot of these bills in the eyes of his grandkids. Him and his wife in this past year passing away, both of them, losing them both tragically. I remember about a year and a half ago sitting there having dinner with them and them appreciating me for being a part of their life, but we were all a part of each other's lives. And that growth and that kinship created such a family bond that it was unbreakable. He was my best friend and my father, and I learned a lot from him. And to see and to hear from all these people around the state of what he did for them in such a short amount of time when I had him for 25 years of my life has been phenomenal. So I appreciate all your hard work, and please keep it up and keep thinking of my dad. And thank you guys so much for everything.
What a heartfelt tribute to Senator Sears. It's clear what a difference he has made to so many people as well as to the state of Vermont. And as Lori and Jen both acknowledged, we're just really appreciative today to have his family here and to be with us to honor him. So thank you. My name's Allison Srinivasan. I work at the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services. I work with the Victim Compensation Program as part of the Sexual Assault Program. And today I have the honor of introducing the awardees. I'm also on the planning committee for this event. So as you may know, each April during National Crime Victims' Rights Week, the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services hosts this award ceremony, where we come together to recognize those who have made a noticeable difference for victims, for survivors of crime, and for the field of victim services here in Vermont. I think it's worth noting that every state in the country honors this week, National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and our awardees today are joining a large collective of dedicated and committed people across the country who are being recognized in various ways this week for the work that they do. Our awardees are joining a collective of individuals and organizations who work tirelessly to seek justice, increase awareness, educate, advocate, and intervene as needed for those impacted directly by crime and violence. It's an accomplished and determined group of people, and one that you should all be proud of. It's a real kinship and a real community. We received incredible nominations this year, and today I'm thrilled to share with you this year's 4 recipients of the 2025 Vermont Crime Victim Services Awards. I will be introducing the individuals who nominated the awardees, who will come up and share a little bit with you about their qualities, characteristics, and accomplishments. And then, of course, they'll invite up the awardees who will also have a chance to share their remarks. And before I begin, I just want to mention that We have Adrian, who's been taking some pictures here. So he'll be doing that while the awards are happening. And after the award is given, if the nominator and awardee could step over under the light so we can get one quick photo, we would really appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and begin the awards. And our first category today to be recognized is for the Survivor Activist Award. This award is for a victim of crime who has taken their own personal experience and transformed it into action and advocacy on behalf of other victims of crime. I'm pleased to announce that Alicia Miles is the 2025 Survivor Activist Award recipient. And today, Taylor Russell, who we met earlier today, who's also a survivor and an activist, will be presenting that award. Taylor works as a family services worker for the state. And one thing also to note is that after this award was made public, we did receive a letter from the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who also acknowledged all the advocacy and education that Alicia has done on behalf of impaired driving and its consequences. So at this time, I'd like to invite Taylor up.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Alicia and her husband tragically lost their beautiful 6-year-old daughter, Olivia, when their family's vehicle was hit head-on by a drunk driver in May 2023. I didn't have the honor of meeting little Olivia, but I do remember meeting Alicia for the first time. She often shares beautiful stories about her daughter. I remember through the tears, she told us that her daughter had such a kind soul. She played soccer and t-ball and was involved with so many activities. Alicia has found her purpose through sharing her story and the memory of her daughter locally, state, and countrywide. Alicia had shared her story with new recruits at the Vermont State Police Academy to highlight the importance of highway safety enforcement. She also traveled with her husband to Washington, D.C. to share their story at the National Highway Safety Administration's Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign. Like Allison said, she has also partnered with the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, also known as MAD, to advocate for change and has created a nonprofit in honor of her daughter, which is called the Ride for Olivia fundraiser. This fundraiser occurs annually in May, so if you would love to go, I believe they still have people signing up, and all proceeds go to the Olivia Miles Youth Education Fund. Despite the suffering and significant tragedy, Alicia has continued to advocate for change in honor of her daughter. Myself, MAD, and so many others fully support Alicia in receiving this award. We are graciously offered this beautiful message from MAD. It touches my heart, so I may cry a little, but no one, Alicia, is more deserving. Olivia is smiling down from above, so proud that you continue to always do the right thing and to help others. It is my pleasure to present the Survivor Activist Award to Alicia Miles.
Thank you, everyone. When I lost my daughter, I felt like I only had two paths I could take. I could either die with her, or I could make it my mission to have Olivia Nicole Miles known everywhere that I possibly could. Thanks to the endless support from my husband, my family, friends, coworkers, community, and MAD, I took the path of bringing awareness to the devastating effects of impaired driving. Thank you, Taylor, for nominating me.
Congratulations, Alicia. The second award that we are recognizing is the Ally Award. This award is for a volunteer, professional, or program who, outside of the course of performing their regular duties, has advocated for victim-centered policies and/or implemented practices that have created significant changes for victims and/or crime or violence prevention. This includes activities that enhance offender accountability, community response to violence, and/or community outreach and education. I'm pleased to share that the recipient of the 2025 Ally Award is New England Canine Search and Rescue. Accepting this award today on behalf of New England Search and Rescue is Dan Lampignano, President and Canine Handler. We have Amanda Dearborn, who is Vice President and Canine Handler, Allison Bowen, who is a Canine Handler, Andy Feliguera, who is a Field Assistant, and along with them here to accept the award are their canine colleagues. We have Logan, Jada, and Kenny here today. And you may be interested to know that Logan and Jada are litter mates, and Kenny is still currently in training. So I would like to invite Amy Farr up to speak more about this program.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm back. I'm not calling out numbers this time. I think when I first heard the theme for this year of kinship and connection and healing, of course, I think about all of the people that we serve. But the thing that I was thinking about a lot was the kinship and connection and healing that we have with each other. And Armina's shaking her head and makes me a little weepy. But there are so many people in this room that we've known each other for years and decades, and we can pick up the phone and call each other. I see Lori come into the room. It makes my heart sing. I think we need that as much, and we need to model that and embrace that as much as we need to help people find their pathways to those things. So that is the spirit of this award. And I work in the Victim Services Unit at the Vermont State Police, and often we are called upon to search for people or search for evidence, and we have the most amazing search and rescue coordinator in the state, Drew Clymer, and we have a really strong search and rescue team. They're highly trained, but all of us, myself and Drew and the team, we're paid to do this. And nothing makes me happier when I'm working on a case, either it's a crime or a missing person, when Drew tells me, and we're calling in New England Canine, because I know, and you all might relate to this, when you're working with a family who is struggling and you want to give them some kind of assurance that we really care and that we see them and we hear them, when I tell them that these handlers and their dogs are out looking for their loved one or help trying to find what we need, there is such a tremendous outpouring of gratitude and trust, just like we were talking about earlier. And honestly, I think of you all as just kind of unsung heroes. And I've been on scenes with you, and you show up, and you do your thing, and your head is down, and you're working so hard as everybody else. And then you kind of aren't there anymore, and then you come back the next day, and it's just without any, often recognition and I know you're not looking for that, but it's just your presence in what you do is so important. And I wrote this whole thing for your nomination, but I think that says it all, and thank you for what you do. I don't know, is there, is the award here? Is it up here? Yeah, go ahead. You want to say anything?
Yeah. Can I do that? Can I do that? Sure. Thank you for that. That was beautiful. We're very happy to be here. For over 40 years, New England Canine has worked alongside our canine partners to help bring home the lost and the missing. It's okay. Okay. As I was saying, what started as the search for lost hikers and hunters and mushroom pickers has, over time, become a sharp focus on those who are suffering with dementia, mental health emergencies, and the discovery of crime victims and the clues that will help prosecute their assailants. We often read news reports that say that a search has ended in the worst possible way, that the subject of the search is no longer alive. But we know that the worst possible outcome is the search that doesn't end, where the missing never comes home. I've long said that our most important work is helping to bring the closure that our families and our communities need so desperately in the face of tragedy. There are many ways to do this work, many dogs and many training techniques and many strategies out in the field, but the one absolutely necessary ingredient is a positive and collaborative relationship with law enforcement agencies. New England Canine has been fortunate to work with Vermont State Police for almost as long as we've been in the business. It is a rare and fruitful partnership and a testament to the dedication with which its officers pursue justice for those that they serve. We are grateful to them for all of our success, and we look forward to continuing that collaboration for the next 40 years. Thank you.
Got some dog biscuits there, too. All right. Thank you and congratulations. I will say that when this group won this award, I did check out their website, and it was actually really informative and interesting. So I encourage you to check it out. I saw you did 58 rescues last year, or searches, and that's quite an impressive number. So thank you. Our third award is for Outstanding Advocacy Award. This award is for an advocate who has shown excellence in skill and compassion within their role and has made a difference for a victim and/or survivor. This year's recipient is Danielle Levesque. Hope I got your name right. Okay. She is a victim services specialist with the Department of Corrections. And Armina Medic, who is also here, will be, oh, there you are, will be introducing her. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Armina Medic. I'm a victims advocate at the Attorney General's office. Talking about years of service and kinship, first thing that came to my mind was Danielle. I just can't thank you enough for everything you have done for our community, for victims of crimes, because many times when a case is over, victims feel lost. And when they get to meet you and they report back and say, I feel good, I feel safe, and I know I have someone to reach out to if I have any questions. So I want to thank you on behalf of the state of Vermont and our communities for everything you have done for the victims. Thank you, Danielle. Come on.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I didn't read what I wrote.
As a person who has chosen to never get married in order to avoid ever being the center of attention for a full day, it's nausea provoking, but I feel really, really grateful to have been nominated, particularly because of the respect that I have for the people in my community who I'm working with every day. And I honestly don't feel like I'm any more deserving than any of you are. I feel like I'm in really good company with Kenny and his siblings and handlers. And I have a saying that I have on my wall that I wrote on the back of a manila folder, and it's from Cornel West. And he says that justice is what love looks like in public. And I know that sometimes justice for crime victims in the criminal justice system just doesn't show up in the way that people need it to. But in my job, I really try to bring the love and care to the people that I encounter that that I wish that, if I or someone that I cared about who showed up in a similar position would receive. So bringing it around to kinship, I try to think of everyone that I work with and, just by happenstance end up in the same space with based on circumstances that are really out of their control, that I bring the love and the care and, treat them as if they were part of my extended family. So, thanks.
Congratulations, Danielle. And our fourth award today, as we wrap this up, is to recognize the recipient of the Justice for All Award. This award is given to recognize a professional whose work has demonstrated outstanding service to crime victims from diverse communities. This year, it's an absolute pleasure to announce that Assistant Chief Jeremy Evans with the Brattleboro Police Department is the Justice for All recipient. Kelsey Rice, who is a member of the Advisory Council for the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services, and also a survivor and advocate and a trainer, was one of his many nominators. And Kelsey, if you could come up and please tell us a little bit more about Assistant Chief Evans and this award today. Somebody's phone.
Before I start, I'm going to locate Senator Sears' family. Where are you? Are they still here? Oh, they left. Okay, well, I did want to just say that policy that Senator Sears pushed forward directly impacted myself and my children and our safety, and so hopefully that message gets to them. And I also want to thank the center for hosting this every year, and to Alicia and Ashley and Taylor, of course. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to start with, I do a fair amount of public speaking, and I love it. And I had an interesting, preparing for this was a different experience for me. And because I'm just recently came up on some unpleasant anniversaries related to my survivor story, and also, some good ones. And so all of that really is related to law enforcement and law enforcement response to domestic violence in my experience. And so it's been interesting, the timing of this. And so I'm hoping I can weave that together for you all. When I read the theme for this year, and I'm going to read it to you right now. The theme this year is connecting kinship and healing. call to action to recognize that shared humanity should be at the center of supporting all survivors and victims of crime. Kinship is the state of being with survivors that drives vital connections and increases access to services, rights, and healing. Kinship is where victim advocacy begins. When I read that, I was filled with emotion, actually, and it brought up for me thinking about the darkest time in my life, which was fleeing domestic violence. I read about that, kinship, and for me, it struck a chord, and I was feeling grief and pain for what my experience was related to kinship. And then it brought up feelings of gratitude and hope and my vision for change. And then a thought came up, and it was Jeremy Evans and a smile, because my experiences are not at all unique to victims and survivors of domestic violence. I think people that don't either work directly in service to victims and survivors or maybe have a loved one that's experienced it, people often think they would they would respond in a certain way if someone they know or is in their circle was experiencing this, that they would never turn their back on that. Of course, they would support the victim. But I'm here to tell you that that is not the experience a lot of the time, in part because those that use coercive control and abuse in their relationships, they systematically ensure that we become isolated from our people. But that is not the only reason. It is also because as much as people may not recognize it, the stigma, the discrimination that survivors of domestic violence experience is very much still present. We can all say it's an ugly, horrible thing, but what it actually looks like and plays out when someone that you know appears to be making choices that are completely contrary to what you ever would have expected, it's very easy to place judgment. It's very easy to place judgment when that person returns to the relationship countless times. And so for me, reading about kinship and thinking about that isn't something that I had with my people. But where I have found it through my journey of recovery is with system-based professionals responding to domestic violence, advocates, nonprofit and system-based sectors. And for me, that's where the kinship has happened. And that is not understood by the general public. There's a lot of judgment and assumptions around what law enforcement should or shouldn't be doing. And although my experiences with law enforcement, I had a lot of negative ones. I did. A lot of mistakes were made that contributed to trauma for me and for my children and put us in positions of increased safety risk. But also, and underneath that, I've had some really fantastic experiences back then, and I continue to. And it is those positive experiences, not just with law enforcement, but anybody that is engaging with a victim that's trying to leave. When we're received well, we're believed, we're supported, we're heard, we're received with someone that slows down enough within whatever their role is, not kicking the can down the road saying, oh, I'm going to do my job right now. And when they get to the advocate will, give them the care that they need. But when everyone recognizes this person deserves to be treated like a human being in this moment, just as we just heard from Danielle, how would I want to be treated, or how would I want my daughter to be treated in this moment? When people can slow down and recognize we need to humanize these experiences, that is where the healing happens. Domestic violence, even if that interaction is not the moment that the victim is ready to leave permanently, I promise you there are seeds that are planted, and we draw from them. And so for me, I still have certain officers that I feel comfortable with that I will reach out to around safety planning years later. And I'm not alone in that. I interact with a lot of victims and survivors across our state, and we call them our officers when we're talking. I'm going to reach out to my officer because we know that language, we understand it, we have someone we feel comfortable talking to. What I'm trying to circle around here, again, I'm going to bring this to Jeremy, is that for me, in my recovery, again, I think I got really angry. I got really angry. This is what it actually is for victims and survivors fleeing domestic violence. I had no comprehension. I think the general public has no idea how difficult it actually is. It is not what you imagine or might see in the movies, right? This awful thing happened to you, we're all gonna wrap around you and everything's gonna be fine. That's not how the system works. And I was just astonished, shocked. And that actually, I think, aided me because the anger pushed me forward. And where it all started was the Brattleboro Police Department. I was invited in to share my story. I was invited in to use it as a learning tool in partnership and collaboration. And that was incredible. Incredible. Let's take this thing that was an unintentional mistake. I acknowledge it was too. But let's use it as a tool. We want to value your experience and apply it. And that lit my fire. And it's led to all kinds of work that I do today. And Jeremy, he'll tell you, or anyone will tell you, that I have no problem reaching out to anybody that is in positions of control or power that might interface with policies or practices around domestic and sexual violence, no problem. There are lots of people that don't return my calls or emails, or people that will invite me in for a meeting, and ultimately it's a kind gesture because it's hard to feel like you're dismissing a survivor of domestic violence. With Jeremy, that's never been the experience. He has always responded in ways where I felt heard, and I felt that he engages with me and recognizes my lived experience as an expertise that should be applied and listened to. And as I developed more and more engaging with people in those circles, I came to realize that I certainly wasn't the only one that viewed Jeremy this way. It was known in the Brattleboro community that this is how Jeremy operates. He's a highly intelligent man, always looking for new solutions and strategies, not in just how we respond to domestic violence, but just law enforcement in general and victims of crime. I have the privilege of interacting with law enforcement all over the state, and more recently started being able to be part of trainings. And I am not aware of other municipal departments that pull in survivors in the way that Jeremy has done with me, and to use my experience as a learning tool for the department. For me as a survivor in kinship, I really cannot put into words what that means for me. Because throughout all of this, as I decided to start speaking out, that has been the aim. How can we do this differently? I do believe most of the time, when an officer makes a mistake, or there's a gap in his system, it's not intentional, but that doesn't make it okay. So to be invited in and to be part of that change in meaningful ways, when to this day I'm still in the bucket of victims and survivors that experience discrimination, my intellectual capacity and you know what might be wrong with Kelsey still happens to me, for sure. I don't care, but it still happens. So to be taken seriously in this way, and the impact that it can have in the victims and survivors of the Brattleboro Police Department serves, that is massive. So what I would love right now, again, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about what that looks like in terms of my engagement with Jeremy. I would like to read from some letters of support that came in from him, for him. And this first one came from former Windham County State's Attorney, Tracy Shriver. As State's Attorney for many years, I was able to work with Jeremy for more than 25 years, from the time he was an officer until he became Assistant Chief. I have observed his unwavering dedication to supporting survivors firsthand. Victim-centered policies and practices have been Jeremy's strength throughout the years. From his leadership position, Jeremy has significant influence over law enforcement attitudes towards survivors of crime, and he leads by example. It is clear from the way he speaks about victims and the way he trains and supervises officers that respect, compassion, patience, and understanding are key to all victim interactions. Perhaps most impressive is his work with victims of crime has been Jeremy's understanding that high quality and thorough investigations are the best way to support victims, As Detective Lieutenant, Jeremy remade the detective division at the Brattleboro Police Department and implemented new standards and guidelines demanding excellence. Additionally, Jeremy has devoted time, energy, and personnel to our Child Advocacy Center, a multidisciplinary team. This focus on providing essential resources for doing good, solid police work has been essential to holding offenders accountable in this county. And I do have to say, it is abundantly clear that Jeremy's leadership of the department, his part in the leadership of the department, has a direct impact on the culture. And there's a lot of divisive thoughts and discussion in Brattleboro around public safety and what that should look like. But as somebody that has, again, the privilege of having a little bit more of a bird's eye view of what it looks like across the state, Brattleboro often doesn't realize how lucky they are. The effort and the constant strategizing of how do we better serve this community from a community policing perspective. How do we minimize additional trauma in our services is something that I don't see happening in other municipal departments. And again, Lee, I'm not the only person with lived experience that this department refers to. would love to read a bit from Samantha Prince, Executive Director of the Windham County Safe Place. That's our Child Advocacy Center. Jeremy has a calming, careful presence that is thoughtful, empathetic, and absolutely dynamite at lightening the mood. While he is seemingly able to move mountains in his work and efforts to improve the department, the community, and the interactions all may have with victims, he does so quietly. Jeremy works with kindness that is gentle and coaxing. His energy is sensitive to the trauma and tribulations that others may face, and he is always problem-solving and seeking unique solutions. He is able to disentangle situations that became emotionally fraught, convoluted, or complex with a careful ease and clear dedication to healing and forward progress. Jeremy has many natural abilities, compassion, and ability that feel both rare and ethereal. He has positively impacted many areas of the community, served many populations, uplifted countless voices through both his direct and indirect efforts. It is truly a privilege to be in his sphere, to share brain space and heart space with someone so brilliant, tender, and caring. I do not know Jeremy personally at the level that some of his professional colleagues do, and certainly his loved ones, but I absolutely can speak to his intelligence is matched by his heart, and that is the kind of leader that we need. I'm a survivor. I can be a free agent when I love to bring this up, that we need more men in positions of leadership that are serving victims and survivors to step into this role in this way. And Jeremy models trauma-informed communication in all of his practices. And so, Jeremy, I'm so excited to invite you up, and I'm really so happy you're getting this award.
Super awkward because I don't know what to say after that. Before I start, though, shout out to New England Canine. Fantastic organization. Worked with you guys several times. You could amazing contributors for us, and so many things we couldn't do without you. Really appreciate that. Amazingly humbled. I had a few things that I wanted to say, but I don't know what to say after that. I think you probably can all appreciate it, appreciate the position I'm in. I guess out of all the training and experience that I've gained over the years, there's two people that have taught me more about the importance of lived experience than anyone else. One is my wife, who's here. Couldn't do most of this without her. She's also police chief in Hinsdale, New Hampshire. So she's taught me a lot in both things. And the second I won't name, but another family member we have that has taught me more about victimology and lived experience than anyone else and I'm sure she has no idea. So just thank you all and appreciate it.
And congratulations again. That wraps up our awards for this year. I want to thank everybody here for coming, and again, just to recognize and honor the folks that were honored today. So Senator Sears, Alicia, Danielle, the New England Canine Search and Rescue, and Assistant Chief Evans. If we could give a round of applause to everybody one more time. Thank you. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for being able to come today. As we conclude this year's National Crime Victims' Rights Week, on behalf of the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services and our planning committee, I want to thank you all for coming to this very important week that we celebrate. And over the year, I want to encourage you to please keep in mind your colleagues that you work with and who do exceptional work so that you can consider nominating them for next year. And we're just very grateful for your presence today. Thank you for your advocacy and your support to victims. We look forward to collaborating and coordinating with you over the year. Please remember to, if you have a parking ticket, to pick your parking ticket up in the back before you go. I hope everybody drives safely, and we look forward to seeing you next year. We're wrapping up a little early, so you're free to head out. Thank you. What do you want? The award winners to come up. Oh, yes, and if the award winners could come up here for one last final photo.